All right, what's going on, everybody? I'm Josh McCabe, host here of Overflow Beyond the Music. Welcome to another episode here in Season 4. And I'm not going to do too much preamble today because we have a pretty long interview. And it was one of those interviews where you just hop on it and you feel like it could have gone forever. And we had actually ended up talking after the interview was done a little bit too. But my guest today is Josh Baldwin of Bethel Music. He's from North Carolina. He's got a brand new, I'm not going to call it an EP, a brand new album out that just came out just a few days ago. And I've been listening to it nonstop. I love it. It's called Live at Church. You will love it as well. And just so you know, normally we interview people. We try and release them in, chronological order of when the interview was. But I interviewed Josh probably about a week ago, and now we're releasing it about a week later. And we have some other great interviews coming up that I'm going to be editing, getting to you, including one from Micah Tyler and one of my personal heroes, Matt Redman. So you're going to want to stay posted for that. Again, find us at Overflow BTM on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that stuff. We're always posting clips and great content, so make sure you're following us. But here is a clip of Josh Baldwin's new album called Live at Church and my interview with Josh Baldwin. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Well, at least good morning to Josh Baldwin, who I didn't realize when we had this podcast scheduled that he would be in a different time zone in California, and it's 8 a.m. where he's at, bright and early. But he's good. The beard's in fine fashion. He's got some coffee with him.
I'm ready to go.
Oh yeah, he's got coffee with him that I assume did not come out of a Keurig. And
no.
Yeah, please welcome Josh Baldwin to the podcast. How you doing, man?
Hey, it's good to be here. Yeah, you're the second person I've talked to this morning today.
Was the first person your wife?
It was my wife, and I haven't spoken to my children at all. No, I'm just kidding. I guess technically you're the fourth person then.
Well, I spoke to my kids briefly, but it's still only 10 a.m. here. But
yeah,
I had to basically break up a whining meltdown of I'm bored.
Yeah, that's a daily, almost hourly struggle with my son. He is constantly looking for things to entertain him. So we'll leave a friend's house and he'll be like, hey, we'll get home and goes, when are we going to go to their house again? Like this week? Like, yeah, we just got home.
I know. It's especially during this time, and I keep trying to stop myself because I don't want this to feel like the COVID-19 season of podcasts. But it's a reality because this is kind of all what we're going through. But yeah, we're at the point now where just in Nashville on Sundays, because we can't go to church. We'll watch church in some form from our community, but we just hop in the car, we just start driving. And we don't really know where we're going to end up. We usually end up at a Sonic or whatever for a McFlurry or something like that. And
yeah,
we just drive circles around Nashville for no reason.
I love that. How many kids do you have?
We have 2 kids, 5 and 8.
Okay, yeah, I have 8 and 7.
Oh yeah, so you probably find this too. They're probably at the age where they understand kind of what's happening in the world, but yet they can't really rationalize why their friends can't come over all the time.
Yeah, that we're totally in that. Yeah, totally in that. And they understand. We've kind of from the beginning. We're up here in Redding where we're kind of away from everything, and I feel like, once they shut down travel to and from the church, it kind of shuts down anyone coming into Redding ever. So you feel actually pretty safe up here, away from everything, and so. We have one family. They're our closest family. They moved here with us from North Carolina, and they're pretty much like the kids' cousins. And we've just hanging out with each other. Our 2 families. We've just okay, we're gonna do this together. So don't go see anybody else. We're not gonna see anybody else, and we're just so that at least our kids can have another little group of kids. But yeah, they kind of get it. But I'm actually shocked at how well they've done with it. I was telling my wife, I was like, their attitude, not being in school, it's been weirdly good for their attitudes. Like, what is going on? So
I mean, thankfully we were already homeschooling just because.
Oh, that's nice.
When we came to Nashville from Canada, it was as you know, like going across the country or going across to another country or whatever. We were kind of leaving ourselves open because we're going, God, we're not really sure why we're here. We don't know how long the season will be.
Yeah.
So let's try and make it as easy on the kids and flexible for travel. And that's kind of what we decided to do. But I want to talk a little bit about being in Reading, because one of the things I find very interesting, and we've had Paul and Hannah on this podcast, we've had Callie on the podcast, we've had Brian on the podcast.
Yeah.
And talking to Paul and Hannah, and then I was talking to John Mark McMillan on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
What is in the water in North Carolina that is like, because there's these pockets, like it's like
and the
yourself,
Helsers too.
Oh yeah, exactly. And all these worship leaders, and then I know a bunch of like kind of rock, emo, hardcore musicians that came out of there that are friends. I'm like, what is in North Carolina that's going?
Yeah, I don't know. I get asked that a lot, which is funny because it's starting to be. I think for years we kind of felt like there was something special there, and I mean, I grew up in Charlotte. Well, I grew up right outside of Charlotte, but I moved to Charlotte when I was like 20, 21, and that's where I met John Mark and Jonathan and Melissa Helser. We all went to the same ministry school, and I mean, we felt like there was something special going on, but you're in your own little bubble, and you just everything you do, you feel special. But
right, yeah.
But I think 20 years later, when you start naming all the names and all the movements and music and not even just worship and Christian, but like you said, there's something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if that's like the land. I don't know if it's the mountains and the beach and just everything in between. That I think sometimes it is all of that brings that kind of creativity and culture and out of it. And I think North Carolinians are pretty proud of being from North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I think there's something too that when it comes to the music, just being proud of where you're from, and it just comes out, and it's like no matter where you are and what kind of music you're doing, it just kind of leaks out of you. I know for me in worship, I've tried to like how do I say it? I've tried to maybe not be quite as North Carolina in some ways.
Wow,
like, maybe if I do it this way and I can maybe reach more people because it won't be so country or whatever. And no one ever likes anything that I do that's like that. They're always like,
I know.
No, do the stuff that's like country that like feels like you. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, it's pretty crazy that the whole North Carolina thing. So
well, I think it's like why I resonate, with your sound, and I mean, I love. I'm just so thankful for Bethel TV and just being able to throw on a worship stream. Like it's just, that feeling when you kind of get to your desk and you don't know what to listen to, but you just know you can throw something on that's just going to draw you in. And
my family, they're out right outside the door in our living room. They have Bethel TV on right now.
I know. That's our house too. And it is interesting you talk about the sound, because I've been thinking about just artists and musicians I know and that are from North Carolina, that just I kind of feel like, there's that. You talk about a Memphis sound or a Nashville sound or a Southern California sound and like the ska days and stuff, but it does feel like there is a North Carolina sound that's like, it's like Southern rock, but yet it's not as far south as other states. Right.
No, it's like, I mean, I guess, some people that don't know just say like, you sounds country. And it's like, I mean, I didn't really grow up listening to country music.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying, but no, it's like an Americana / Southern rock / country, just bit of a Bryan Adams, Whiskey Town kind of vibe, and so I know it's this blend of all that, and then you have my dad and my dad's side, all the Baldwins are from the mountains of North Carolina, which we call the Appalachian Mountains. But everyone else in the whole world. Appellation, which is, I didn't know that until I left. And I was like, what? I'm from there and we don't call it Appellation. So it's
do me a favor for that reason. Say, what's the big city in Ontario where there's a church catch the fire?
Toronto?
Exactly. You say the T.
Toronto.
We say Toronto.
Oh, really?
We don't say the second T, and that's how you know someone's not from there.
Toronto.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense. Toronto. Yeah. Oh,
so there's those little things.
I enunciate everything. I get picked on for that, especially T's and P's and B's. Yeah.
Oh, I bet your mix engineers just darling.
Oh, they can't stand. Yes. Can you? Okay, now sing it this way, but like lay off the T. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. And then you try and think about doing it, and it's just
it doesn't feel natural at all.
Now you're making up words.
Yeah. My big thing.
Yeah.
No. Go ahead. Sorry. No. It was gonna go down a dumb trail.
A dark path. Okay.
Yeah. It was like it's not gonna be good.
Well, I love when we get on those paths because we had Paul and Hannah on, and all of a sudden we just started talking about our favorite emo bands.
Oh man, they can go for days talking about that.
It was so fun, and we just I feel like we put together like a dream playlist on the podcast. And then like 45 minutes later, I'm like, oh, shoot, you guys just put out a new album. We should maybe talk about that quick.
What? Paul and I, our dream is to start a podcast together, me and Paul, and we don't even know what we want to talk about. Other than, we do love sports, and he's a Duke. I'm a Duke fan. He's a Carolina fan.
Oh.
So there's that, but we just have so much fun talking and hanging, and we just laugh all the time. So yeah, he's a good podcaster.
I noticed though, because I like that you talk about just people you connect with naturally. Because I noticed that in Bethel, in Bethel Music and Bethel Church, and I want to clarify too for our listeners, there's Bethel the Church, which is in Reading, which they have weekly worship church services like everybody else, and there's Bethel Music, the label, and sort of the conglomerate that has all these artists, including Josh Baldwin, who happens to be Reading, but they also include artists like Brandon Lake, who are over in North Carolina, South Carolina, Carolinas, and showing up at everybody's church, just slaying. And
well, we give him a hard time about it. It's funny.
I noticed at Bethel, and maybe it's intentional, maybe it's not. There seems to be worship leaders that get paired together a lot. For worship sets or for tours. Who are some of the other worship leaders or artists that you find there's just good natural chemistry with musically, family-wise? Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, when I got here, I found that whenever we'd go on tours, I was always paired with Amanda. It was always like me and Amanda. And it got to be so... And we would lead a lot more on tours and traveling than we actually even did at home. And it was funny to think about because we're so different, but I think that's why it felt so good. It just worked, and we're
lean on each other's strengths.
Yeah. I would just kind of do my thing and maybe lead it out or get it to a place, and then Amanda would do her thing and just take off and go from wherever I left it.
Go someplace.
take it further.
Yeah.
And so definitely was her. And then at church, I've led the most probably with Callie, and we she's probably my favorite to lead with. We're actually leading together tomorrow we're doing these encounter rooms here at Bethel, and it's just like a streamed thing, and we're leading tomorrow for the first time together. I think we were texting about it yesterday, like it's been over 6 months, 7-8 months maybe, that we haven't led together. We got to where I think some of that organically happens. I mean, with both of those, it organically happened. And then me and Callie, one of us will say to Paul, who schedules the worship, like, "Hey, let me lead with Callie a lot." He also sees like, okay, he wants us to be. There's times when you're trying to raise people up, or you're trying to like mix it up and like help people. So you're leading with different people. Then there's other times where it's like, let me just set this up for success and somewhat like let people just be comfortable with who they're with. And so I love that. I love that he just sees like, hey, they really flow together well. They work together well. Let's just keep this going. And so Callie's probably the one I've led with the most, and then we're really close with the McClures, our family.
Yeah.
And but I don't get to lead with them much because they just prefer to lead with each other, and so.
Well, that's a good thing. That
I
they
get
enjoy
it.
Leading together.
I get it. Yeah, no, it could be worse. They could hate leading with each other, and it would be really
totally.
awkward.
Well, it's good though, because when you think about just, and it's something you really only understand when you lead worship a lot. It's if you just kind of serve once a month on a team, you don't really get it as much. But when you're leading week to week, having that other foundation where you're talking another language and code that no one else understands. And what happens is when you're both confident and comfortable as leaders, you could have a keyboard player this is their first time and they feel comfortable now because they have complete confidence in who's leading the team.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, it just makes a difference.
It's everything from. It's funny. It's gotten to where even like with Callie, we'll get a set list together, and I just always feel like no matter who comes up with the song, like she might be saying I'm feeling these songs, and it always feels good to me. I'm always like and I just immediately know what songs I'd love to pair with those, or the other way. Like maybe I'll lead first and be like, here's the ones I'm feeling, and that takes like so much of the pressure, stress off everything. I feel like I'm, when you're leaving someone and from the get go, just a set list is hard to manage. That's like, okay, I don't, that's the easy part in some ways. I want to like let's get through that. So it's really cool.
It was funny too. I always give my sister a hard time about it. But my sister and I used to lead together a ton, and, it's like brother and sister who are both like strong personalities. Yeah. It's like there's when we're clicking, it's great, and then when we're kind of not on the same page, it's not because you say things to each other only brother and sister can get away with saying to each other.
Yeah, you're gonna be honest with her, whereas I'll just be sweet and kind to someone I'm not related to.
Yeah, and then she'll come with her songs. I'm like, Steph, everything's an F, like. Or B flat, like the guitar players hate you right now.
Yeah,
but it is funny when you think about just people bringing their different backgrounds and to the mix, and how a little bit of difference, a little bit of uniqueness is great. And when you can find places to click, but it all really stems from your history and what you grow up with and what you're used to. So tell me a little bit about growing up in North Carolina. I always love to ask the question, like, when is that moment that you had a guitar in your hand, or you're leading worship, or you're serving at church, and you go, I think the Lord created me to do this.
Yeah.
There's that moment where you just feels beyond I can sing.
I definitely grew up in church. My dad's a pastor, but he also he was also big into music, and he actually was our worship pastor for a lot of years. And he was kind of filling in, and then our worship pastor left, and until we found a new one, he just did it, and he actually was better at it than the guy that did it before, and then anybody. So it was just like, you should just do it, Dad, and so we did both, and I played drums with him, and I started playing drums at church when I was like 12, and I mean, granted, it wasn't a big church, and it was a long time ago, and there was no click involved. There were barely monitors involved, honestly.
Well, it's like you show up to church and you find out what songs you're doing when you show up.
You just jump up there and you don't even know most of them. And most of them back then were these old Jewish songs that were like, boom, chit, boom, chit, boom, chit, boom, chit, like that kind of, they rush on the city, they run on the wall. So,
oh, please, can we do a cover session?
Oh, man, I could go for days, just medley. I could just like go one right into the other. But, so, I mean, I definitely, through my teens, playing drums, and I definitely knew I had like I loved it. I just didn't, that was also back then where it's like that was a long time ago, and you didn't necessarily aspire to growing up and being a worship minister or pastor, and that being like a job that you, without maybe, you would think, I thought back then, as I started playing guitar and like, youth group, which is where I really started to hit. I started playing guitar in youth group, and my youth pastor was like, "You should just lead worship for us. We don't have anybody. You play with your dad. He could see like it's in you. You just might not know it yet." And I remember I started doing it in youth, and that's when I realized like yes, I feel like I'm good at this. I feel like this is in me. But even then, I wasn't sure, and I went to college for just 2 years at Lee University, and I went to college, but I didn't go to class. And but while I was in college, I would just play guitar all the time. Listen to Morning Star music, this ministry in Charlotte that had these amazing worship albums that didn't sound like anything I'd ever heard. And I realized in college, I was leading worship at a youth camp during the summer. And there was one of those nights, and when the Lord just like, boom, hits everybody. And it's like, I feel like everyone who grew up in youth and went to youth camp has like one or two of those moments, where you just like, everyone gets blasted by the Lord and the Holy Spirit. And it just kind of like changes your life. And that happened, and I was leading worship. And I remember I think the only guy playing was the keys player, and everybody was just on the floor, and I was just bawling. And the youth pastor at that time of another church, he came. He was like one of my dad's best friends, and he just was praying over me. Just started prophesying over me. Wow. It's like, you were created to do this. And I think until that time, it was like something that I loved to do, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Period. I wasn't much of a dreamer. I was dreaming. I just thought they were way too outlandish and way too like. And, and even in the music world and worship, it wasn't a thing as much back then, so that was the moment when I realized, oh, this is what I'm called to do. Like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to leave school, and I'm going to go to this ministry school in Charlotte, this Morning Star, the thing that I've heard this music coming from, and I'm just going to do this. And that was that moment when, okay, this is happening. And this is weird, and I haven't really talked about this much, but I trust you, so your name's Josh. Good. So
yeah, exactly. We're already in like kindred. Anoint. I don't know. Blessing. Give me some of the Baldwin anointing over. Right. I'll take some of that too.
When that guy was praying for me, and I'm laying on the ground with my face and my arm, my nose just starts bleeding, which is so. I didn't hit my nose. I didn't have like allergies. I wasn't picking my nose to make it because my 7-year-old he can make his nose bleed just from picking it too much. Sorry to take it down that path.
Exactly.
But it just starts bleeding, and I'm like, what in the world? And so I have to get up from this prayer and go like fix myself. So I'm in the bathroom, like, getting there, and then realizing I'm just ruining the shirt that I have on. And I felt in this moment, it was this weird like moment where I felt like the Lord was like, this is like a covenant I'm making with you. Like
wow.
It was right after this guy had prophesied all this stuff, and then inside me I was like, that's right, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then my nose bleeds, and I was like, so I still have that shirt packed away in a guitar case with the blood stains all over it, just to like remind me, like, okay, whenever I'm feeling like right now, when it's like easy to think, wow, I travel and do worship, and we don't have churches or traveling right now. Look back, the Lord is keeping me. This is what I've been called to do, no matter what it looks like. And so that was like the moment, and I haven't actually talked about that much. That's fun.
I think that's awesome, because I love that you kept that as a reminder, because I think there's those moments where we just get wrecked, and we get into a zone where we go, oh man, I'm in the sweet spot. And then there's always those moments, and I call them like crisis moments. Yeah. And I feel like God doesn't send them to defeat us, but He sends us, like He lets them happen for us to overcome them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's been a moment for you that you're kind of feeling discouraged, feeling like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Yeah. I don't know if I got this in me to make another album or to write another song. Maybe my best days are done.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I have those moments about 10 times a year. I mean, maybe little small ones, but it's fun. I was talking about this with my wife the other day, and it's funny I feel like in whatever stage of life you're in, those moments happen. And
it doesn't matter how much success you have either.
It doesn't matter. And that's what we were talking about. I was like there was 3 years ago? We moved to Reading 5 years ago. I've been a part of Bethel Music for 6 years. We moved to Reading 5 years ago. And about 2 years in, I was just like, I remember it was December. I want to say 2017. And that year I'd released my last album, my most recent album. And it was great. It's it did fine. And I'm in Reading. I'm at Bethel. I'm with Bethel Music. It's life is a lot better than it was 10 years prior. But I remember thinking we had this sit down, me and her, and we were like, okay, do we want to keep doing this like we're doing it for this next year, or is it time for me to, I don't know, go get like a job at a church or do just something else? Like we were just like in that. And I was just discouraged, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to write another good song again. I don't know if I'm like, good at the, I just was like, maybe I'm too old. Worship leaders, like, I feel like when you're 40, it's like 85 in worship leader years. And, which I wasn't 40 3 years ago. I'm 40 now. I wasn't back then. But, and we just made that, so we're like, okay, we'll give it like one more year. We're going to go hard this next year and just, and keep going, the thing is, I think in those moments, what I've found that I go back to, it's like, okay, what was the last thing that I heard from the Lord? And, or, I'll go seek him. I'll knock on that door and be like, okay, what's next? And if I don't hear anything, then it's like, okay, well, what was the last thing? Okay, well then I'm just going to keep going forward in that. And, and so, and it was like, okay, let's just keep going. And that next year was like the year that this crazy breakthrough happened, for lack of a better word. And just, I was part of Stand in Your Love and all this stuff, just boom, this happens where it's almost like the Lord's, there's like he gives me those things. And it's like, okay, don't question like, my hand on your life anymore. It feels like this, to me, it feels like this, hey, I have no more room to like question like the Lord's hand on my life and the Lord's calling on my life and all this. But then even coming around 2 years later, I find myself like, okay, do I still want to do, all this, those things can creep back in, and it doesn't matter how successful you are or you look, or they always creep back in. And I think sometimes I'm not saying it's like super unhealthy, because I think a lot of those times, those moments have been good for me to like reevaluate things. And just, and sometimes it's just like a refocusing that needs to happen. But it's also, it's good to remember, like, just because someone might look like they're doing amazing or they're doing your dream, it's people are always like struggling with like maybe not feeling enough, or maybe feeling like this is it, or I just wrote my last good song ever, or I just led worship for the last time. It's something like that. And I hope I answered that. That was a long answer.
I resonate that, and I wanted to go there. Sometimes I just feel like on this podcast I want to ask questions I would ask you if I was just trying to talk to you as a mentor to student type thing. But I had the same feeling back in 2013. I remember we were doing ministry in Canada, and my sister and I were doing a lot of ministry together, and we experienced what was like a mini revival. And we were in this like nightclub, and we did this worship night there with Martin Smith and Amanda. And I remember standing side stage getting ready to preach, and I just looked out and saw a full room, hands raised, and I said, Lord, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, wow. And everyone's like, man, that like I'm getting to like minister with my hero, Martin. And like, I'm standing here saying, I don't really care if I ever do this again. And it's that real sense of feeling tired. And I remember sharing that with like local leaders going, are you crazy, man? Like, I'll trade you. And I'm going, I just don't really care. I could just quit and shut this whole thing down tomorrow and not even give a rip. And it's real, that feeling of burnout. And I love that you keep that t-shirt with the bloodstain, and I'm a little concerned about your TSA record as you travel with that in the guitar case.
No,
but
it's not in that. It's not in that guitar case, though.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I recommend you don't bring that through Canadian Customs.
They would not. Yeah, it's the funny thing. It's actually a Lee University intramural championship shirt that. Yeah. So and it's got bloodstains all over it. So
what you got to say if you ever bring it on the road? Just say, "Oh man, it's NBA star. I was a basketball college star. We elbowed, and he's an NBA star. He bled on the shirt." So
I wish.
But I wanted to ask you too because I love the first album, "The War Is Over." I got on vinyl. It's
nice.
One of the few vinyls that I have.
One of the 15 people maybe who got.
Oh, really?
No, hopefully it was more.
Oh man, I got it. I mean, I'm sorry I didn't. Somebody paid for it, but my sister gave it to me for Christmas as a Christmas gift.
Awesome.
I was very happy about it.
Yeah, by the way, your sister is my neighbor.
Oh no way!
She is. We live right down the road in the same neighborhood. Yep.
Well, you're going.
She has a basketball goal that's not her. I think it's her neighbor's goal. She lives in a cul-de-sac. And she has a goal like next to her house that me and my son go walk and play on all the time.
Oh, amazing! I was talking to her the other night because I was trying to help just with some like different website stuff for music stuff with her roommate Emmy. And by the way, I love Emmy Rose when she leads.
Emmy is amazing.
She's have such a beautiful spirit.
Yes, actually, when you were talking earlier about people to lead with, I mean, Callie is like. We've been leading together for years. I just started leading more with Emmy this past year, and she's just a beautiful person inside out. She's amazing. I love her fiance, Daniel. We play ball together a lot, and she's just I love them.
Well, it's an interesting community there in Reading. Like I've obviously been there a few times, but you're so far from anything like sports teams, an arena, anything. But there's some diehard sports fans. Like I went out with a couple of guys. We were watching some NBA playoffs, some NHL playoffs. We had a good time.
It's fun. We we find each other too. We definitely like you seek out like the sports guys, and I'm definitely one of those. I mean, I'm from North Carolina. I'm a big Duke fan, but I was a Hornets fan for years, Charlotte Hornets, but then they left us. And then we got the Bobcats, and I hated the Bobcats. And right around that time was when Steph Curry was at Davidson, which is right outside of Charlotte, and I watched him play like 3 or 4 college games. And I was like, when he went to the NBA, I'm like, I can't stand the Bobcats. I'm just going to cheer for whoever he goes to.
Yeah.
And he went to the Warriors, and they were, not great for a long time. And then we moved out here, and they were the Warriors, and I lived 3 hours from them. So now me and, my son, all he knows is the Warriors and Steph Curry.
Right.
And but
do you get to experience, you guys play a lot of different venues. And I don't think you were on that, but I saw Bethel when they came through Nashville at the Opry. No. And so like you get to play like a lot of cool venues, but I always would just geek out. I want to see the NHL because I'm a hockey guy.
Yeah.
I want to see the dressing room. Has there been any kind of cool moments while touring that you've got to get some access or meet some people from that world that you're going, this is so cool that I get to meet and hang out with these people?
Not as yes and no. I mean, I've definitely met some cool people. Not like I've been so close to meeting Steph Curry. I have a friend who's really close with him, and he was going to take me to one of the finals games, but we had our it was the day that we started our Bethel Music Heaven Come conference 2 years ago, and I was no. So I was so close, but I mean we've gone. I think the most the coolest thing probably I've done was like. I haven't. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like either I'm blanking or that just nothing has been special enough to remember anything cool. I got to meet Landry Jones, NFL quarterback. He came to Heaven Come. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
We joked around with him about it was Joe our drummer, he played quarterback in high school, and Joe tried to challenge Landry to like a throw off football. And Landry said, if you beat me in a throw off, I'll give you my next year's salary.
Amazing. I would take that.
I loved it. I just loved that he's like, you're not going to beat me. And if you do, I will. But, and then we joked because his wife plays for, I think she's a WNBA player. And so I was like, I'll like do a basketball shoot off against her. And then, yeah, so we were talking junk with two professional athletes, which is not smart when you're two out of shape loser athletes. But I feel like I've always just barely missed like amazing moments on the first ever Outcry. We went on Bethel Music. We were on that, and it was like Hillsong United and Bethel Music and some other big worship bands.
Just a couple
massive
people.
and the day and it was big enough we were playing like arenas. And the day after I left to come back home, and the tour was still going on. We were just like somebody swapped in with me. I left and go back home, and they were in Houston, and that was when Dwight Howard was playing for Houston, the Rockets, and he came and hung out with the guys backstage, and then got him into like the Houston Rockets practice facility, and they played ball with Dwight Howard. And I was like, the day after I left, and they all know, like, I was like the biggest basketball fan of all of our guys there, and it was I feel like I just barely miss amazing opportunities like that. But
what you need to do next time you see your tour dates, whenever in the world those come back.
Yeah, seriously.
At this point, you just need to say, Lord, you need to reveal to me the favorable dates.
Seriously, the timing. When are they going to be home?
Yeah, when are the good people going to be in town? But man, it's such a weird season. I want to ask you this on both a personal level and hopefully help some other people out. You know, when this again, I don't want to make this the whole COVID-19 coronavirus sponsored season, but yet here we are.
It's hard. Yeah, it's our world. It's hard not to.
Yeah, like when it first happened, my whole month and a half of what do I do with my time? And you're going, oh, well, actually, I now have tons of time, and I can do all the things I say I never have time to do. I can write, I can podcast more, I can do Insta Lives, I can write devotionals, all these things I want to do. But then this overwhelming pressure started coming over me. Like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not being productive enough. Everyone else seems to be co-writing every day. Is there, have you felt any of that? Like a pressure to do more, be more successful, output more?
Yeah, a little bit. I feel like in some ways I kind of always feel that pressure, and not because that pressure is getting put on me, but more because I'm like a 9 on the Enneagram, and so I just want to chill and not have any pressure on me at all times. So just the slightest bit of pressure feels like a massive amount. My wife's always joking. She's like, you get stressed out at the smallest things. I'm like, yeah, I know. But so, yeah, I was the same way. I was like, well, yeah, I'm scared because I lost a lot of trips, and that's how we make a living. And now I don't know what, and then on the other end, I was like, free time. I'm just hanging. Yeah, totally. Now it's like I can do what I always want to do, but now I'm not in trouble. I'm saving the world by just staying at home, Yeah. And absolutely. So, but then also, I have songs that I'm like needing to finish and co-write things people are sending me. I'm like, oh great, I can like look at those and set up my office for like a studio kind of thing. And then I just, it like has like just kept piling on one after the other. And I'm like, how am I more busy now here at the house than I was before? And we're homeschooling our kids now, and our kids go to school. We've always joked about that we would be terrible homeschool parents, and
here you are.
And now now it's proving to be true. No, in the mornings I'm usually like I'll do work with my daughter, and my wife does work with our son, and so our whole morning up until like probably noon or a little bit later is just school. So then by then it's like, okay, then I'm going to get in this. And it just, it seems to like get a little overwhelming. But I think it's been looking, we've talked, my wife and I've talked about this a lot. It's been such an amazing like family time for us.
Yeah.
And
we got to take advantage of that.
And I think I have so many things that like I feel like maybe I should be getting done, but then I'm like, I'm spending like every day with, especially all the morning with my kids, just working with them. I'm more involved in their life than I ever was, and it's felt so good. And I've seen the fruit of that on their lives. Like we were talking earlier, they even their attitudes, it's just shifted, and I know it's because they've had more time with their family and and they've had parents that just are pouring into them, and because we have to, but also now it's become this. Man, I feel like I'm getting good at being a second grade teacher. Maybe I'll just
and probably a second grade janitor.
Yeah,
and
all of it. A cafeteria lady.
Yeah, exactly. I think I saw someone's like TikTok where it's like my job these days. It's like, and they put on all these different outfits to play all the different roles in school. Yeah, and but man, it's the reality of where we're at, and a good thing is that fruit does come out of these seasons, and fruit does come out of times of trial, doubt, but also times of joy and just seeking the Lord and stuff. So there's a new project that you've got, and I'm excited about it because there's been some songs that have come out sort of in between. The first record, which The War's Over, was out in 2017, and then you released Stand in Your Love, the radio version, and then Let the Redeemed in 2019. But now there's something that's new. So tell me all about that. Yeah,
it's it's a live album that we just called it Live at Church. I just went really creative with it, and we were thinking like, what do we want to what should we call this? And I was like, can it just be Live at Church? Like that's what it is, and why? Right. And which I actually love it because it reminds me of how much I love my church, how much I love the church, then just we just love our church, and so I had a few songs from the War Is Over album that we lead a lot here at our church, and I just always wanted those live versions to get out, and just never quite knew. They never worked to be on like a Bethel Music compilation album. It just I would have new songs that need to get out on those. And
did You Deserve It All ever get on a live record before?
Never did. It never did.
Oh man, I love that one.
Thanks. And it was that one and a couple others that I was just. My wife kept saying, you have to put these, even if you just put them out by yourself, just send them out as singles. And then I was like, well, that's all I've been doing the last 2 years is releasing singles. So I should just, and I'm working on a new album of new songs, a studio album that should come out later in the fall this year. And in the meantime, we were just talking and somebody was like, why don't, in the meantime, you just get some of these. I had them already, these live versions of these songs that we had done at church and at our worship school in July that we have here. And they're like, why don't we just release some of those and you can finally get those out. And so I went back and compiled these things together. And in that, and Let the Redeem was on it, which was a song that we just released as a single, but I wanted to release a live version of that too. And it was I loved it because it was, the whole thing was like, okay, let's just release them as it. And we mixed it and we doctored things up as far as mixing it and mastering it, but there's no overdubs. It's just
amazing
as it is. And and we didn't edit thing. It's the length is just the length. However long I went, that's how long it is. We even threw in a moment after my song Fountains. I just went into that old Hillsong United song, Came to My Rescue, and
still one of my favorite songs.
I love that song, and I don't go into it. It's not that that's happened like a couple times at church, and just like at the end of Fountains, I've gone into it, and I was like, can we just put that on there too? Like it felt so amazing. Like this is just like. It was actually refreshing to me to go into an album looking at it like, I'm just going to like all of this. I don't care what if it's not polished up and look, And the great thing about being here at Bethel is we have amazing musicians. We have an amazing church. And when we do the worship school too, you have all these worship leaders coming in from all over the world and worshiping with. So it does sound great to me. It's not like we just piece together this raw thing. There is a new song on there that we put on there too. It'll be probably on my studio album, but it was all these songs that I had always wanted to release live, and we finally just did it. And it was going to be, I guess, I don't know if technically it's still an EP. We kept calling it the live EP, and then it just kept growing. Yeah. And then now there's 7 songs on it, and lengthwise, I don't know that I think it's just the normal album, but we still refer to it as the live EP. But yeah, it's really
just throw
special.
an instrumental interlude on there, and then if you get to 9, you can justify it.
Yeah, I remember when I got all the songs together, and I just had rough versions of it, which are rough versions. As you were saying, are sound great.
Yeah.
I sent it to my dad, and he just he wrote me back. He was texting me. He was like, "This is my favorite thing you've ever done." I was like, good. Really? I didn't even work hard for this. Really? And I mean, I get it though. He was like, I've always wanted you to do a live out. That's all I've ever wanted you to do for 20 years. That's where you're that's your sweet spot, that you just live albums. And so, it really has been one of the most special things I've been a part of. And I think for all of just how it happened, the ease of it, and just that when I love that these recordings, when we were doing them, 2 and I think one of maybe 3 years old, we weren't we didn't know then that we were recording for an album.
Totally.
It was just, these are just moments.
That's what's the most special.
I love that. Yeah. Because I can feel that. I can feel that from a time, there's been albums that I've been on where we're recording an album. Yeah. And the more you do it, you get better at trying to not think of the fact that you're recording. And
there's also the sense of permission, feeling that you have permission to take it somewhere that nobody knew we were going. Right. On a live record, it's the last thing you want to do is take it, and then the executive producer what are you doing, man?
Right. Or the other end, they're like, hey, just be totally free at the end of this, and they're almost pressuring you to take it somewhere, and then you're like,
yes, totally.
I've got to make this amazing because we're recording, and this is the one time we can do, so. I loved that these moments were none of that. I didn't care. All I cared about in those moments was worship and leading this, and where are we going, and what is the Lord doing? And so, we've listened to it at the house a ton, and it's just, it's been really special to us, and I love that. It's just the kind of out of nowhere. I was looking forward to my other album that later this year of new songs. And this one kind of just crept up and might be my favorite thing I've ever done. And you know what I think too? I'm in the middle of writing and finishing new songs and recording them for the next one. And I'm pumped. I'm definitely pumped about those new songs. But I was having this hard time. I don't know what it was. It was I was connecting with them, but I wasn't. But then I didn't. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. And I realized once we did this live EP of my old songs, I was telling my wife, I was like, I feel like I wasn't done with those songs yet. I needed them. Yeah. There was something in me that wanted to get them out in the way that we've done it here in this live album.
Yeah,
and the minute that happened, it just it almost turned my heart. Now it's okay, that chapter is closed.
It's closed. Yeah.
All right, now I'm so pumped about what the next things that are coming, and the other songs that are coming out. So yeah, it's really special to us.
Well, one of my favorite songs, I mentioned it a second ago, is "Came My Rescue," and it's a cover. And normally we play something that's original by the artist on this, but I think if it's having heard moments on the album already, it's one of my favorite moments, and I think it really just captures the rawness of the album. That it's we're just gonna set up, we're gonna record, or we're gonna worship, and somebody happened to record it, and here's a moment that's not a Bethel song, it's not my song, it's a song from 10 years ago, And I think it just encapsulates the record so well. So we're going to play that coming out of this conversation. But
awesome.
Thanks so much, Josh, for taking time to hang out with us today.
Thank you. This was a great way to start my day.
Absolutely. Well, the album's called Live at Church. I'm not going to call it an EP because an EP means, it's just a little bump in the road. But I think this is going to be a monument in the life of Josh Baldwin and Bethel music. So this is Came to My Rescue from Live at Church. You can get it everywhere now: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube if you're cheap, wherever. You can find it somewhere, and make sure you get it, make sure you save it, make sure you stream it, favorite it, playlist it, all that stuff that helps the artists out, helps more people hear it. And I have no shame in telling people to go out there and promote this stuff, because these are life-changing songs that will change somebody's life. So this is Came to My Rescue, Josh Baldwin from Live at Church here on Overflow Beyond the Music. All right, there you have it. There is Came to My Rescue off of Josh Baldwin's new album called Live at Church. Make sure you check it out everywhere. That's it for this episode of Overflow Beyond the Music. I'm Josh McCabe, your host. Make sure you check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Overflow BTM, and we will see you guys next time. Keep safe out there.